androgen hormones affect the brain? Clearly they do, and we know this because of multiple lines of evidence. First, the brain makes its own androgens. These are included among the neurosteroid hormones made in the brain, such as androstenediol, which is a weak androgen, and dehydroepiandrosterone, or DHEA. The brain makes neurosteroids, and the brain can respond to the neurosteroids DHEA made from the adrenal glands. Not only can these bind to the androgen receptor, but also since steroid hormones can be converted into other steroid hormones, hormones like DHEA can be the precursor to testosterone, which then can be made in the brain from DHEA. Not only does the brain make its own androgen steroids, but also it makes receptors so that it can respond to those which are released into the plasma at the testes and the adrenal glands. So when brains are stained for the presence of androgen receptors, both human brains and those of other mammals, receptors are found in comparable areas. The hypothalamus, the medial preoptic nucleus, the ventromedial nucleus, the lateral septum. These areas stain with the most receptors, but there are also receptors in other areas. The amygdala, the bed nucleus of the stria terminalis, which is one of the areas which is different between males and females, multiple areas of the thalamus. And when one considers it, it's clear that these androgen hormones are doing multiple functions, given that they are present in sensory areas, in motor areas. They are present in both men and women, although the amount of androgen receptors and the degree of staining might vary in some of these regions. One of the most important actions of androgens like testosterone is their changes in the fetal brain during what's known as an organizational period or a critical period. In female fetuses, the fetal ovaries are not active. They aren't producing steroid hormones. While in male fetuses, the fetal testes do produce testosterone so that the male fetal brain is exposed to sex steroids that the female fetal brain is not. And this leads to permanent changes in the organization of the brain between the third month and the period of birth. Another organizational window occurs during puberty. These changes not only result from androgens like testosterone binding to androgen receptors, but testosterone can be converted into estrogen. And the binding of estrogens like estradiol to estrogen receptors is also essential in this. And so both testosterone and estrogen help to make the male brain male during fetal development. As a result of the differing amounts of steroid hormones which impact the brain during organizational periods, there are actually anatomical differences between male and female brains. They are small, but nevertheless, one could identify an individual based on the gender of the brain, these small differences in anatomical regions. Not only are there differences observed in anatomical regions, but also in the physiology of the brain. Gender differences have been reported in a number of different aspects, such as the functioning of specific circuits, the lateralization of brain usage in different tasks, the metabolism of specific regions. This also applies to brain health. There are a number of disorders where there are gender differences in the numbers of patients affected. There are disorders which affect men more, just as there are disorders which affect women more. And so, to some degree, the brain does seem to have a gender arising from the responses to these steroid hormones.